Hello, everyone, and welcome to our APT and Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. My name is Aaron Stillwell, and I'm joined by my co host, Alex Mavro. Today, we are diving into a critical topic bridging AI and AI cybersecurity innovation with AI governance, a conversation shaping the future of secure AI driven defenses against tomorrow's threats. We're thrilled to bring you this event through our APT and Cybersecurity LinkedIn group, a hub for thousands of cyber professionals sharing insights, tackling advanced threats, and hosting cutting edge discussions like we're doing right now. And who better to lead us than our guest, Durst Eduardo Hernandez? With 17 years of experience across state government, healthcare and higher education, and fintech, Durst is a cybersecurity GRC manager who's mastered cyber risk and threat intelligence. Holding multiple certifications, he served on the San Antonio ISACA board, taught cybersecurity at universities, and shared expertise in Bloomberg News and the San Antonio Business Journal. Durst, it's an honor to have you join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. To our audience, drop a comment on the LinkedIn event page. And probably near the end, what we're going to do is we're going to answer your questions and kind of go through them. For more information about future events, please visit our website at aptcybersecurity.ai and our YouTube channel at APT Cybersecurity. And also, we're on Spotify too. So at APT Cybersecurity on Spotify also. So, Durst, the first question with your extensive experience in over 17 years leading GRC and fintech, what drew you initially to AI and cybersecurity? And kind of on top of that, how has your role kind of evolved with the rise of generative AI tools?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, my background has been in cybersecurity. I started as a practitioner, as a on-hand practitioner, like an army of one, like we like to say, right? So that's where I started my career in state government. Like I said, I've been doing this for 18 years. So as things progress, right, through the motions of actually doing operational work in the field of information security, cybersecurity, things kind of changed, came to a head, right, with the advent and push out of ChatGPT in 2022, late 2022, 2023. Um, that's where I was actually exposed to AI and ML within different technologies that were already happening current state when machine learning was actually already happening before the ChatGPT explosion. So I started kind of realizing that from an anomaly detection, threat intelligence perspective, the explosion of generative AI basically showed the increased potential for not only solutions, but also the heightened risk around that, right? So my role kind of evolved from focusing on traditional GRC defenses from the infrastructure side, from through security risk assessments, through just dealing with and adjudicating and accounting for risk management and compliances, which is GRC, but with the AI lens, right? Putting that AI lens and hat on, incorporating and guiding responsible AI adoptions, understanding that you have to have guardrails, governance, right? So, for example, an AI policy, a steering committee, a steering charter
Yeah.
that will dictate that you need to have AI in place from a formality perspective, governance, to push out to the enterprise without just different things happening with no real guardrails and security controls.
So, with your ISACA involvement, kind of how has that shaped your views on global standards?
I think ISAC has been at the leading edge on standards when it comes to not only AI, but I mean obviously they're the industry flagship certifications from the C-risk as a security risk information security practitioner, right? They just have the AAISM, I think it's called Advanced in AI certification, which is basically blends cybersecurity and AI enablement. I actually was part of the exam for that testing for that tool.
Mhm.
From the auditor side of the house, they have the AAIA, right? So it's basically advanced certificate in AI auditing, right? So in using the ID auditors and IT auditor perspectives, enabling AI into their programs, into their audit perspectives and audit plans, right? So that's huge, and ISACA is kind of leading the way there. So
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of keeping up with the times, and like my current leader right now, she basically said, if from a development perspective, from a leadership perspective, if we don't get caught up with having a formal certification around AI, we're going to be left behind, right? The
Yes.
times
I
because
agree. Yeah.
regulators are going to be expecting that, leaders are going to be expecting that, and you have to have some sort of baseline level AI literacy in place for all of our operational roles, regardless of if you're in the defensive side of the house, GRC side of the house, offensive side of the house, right? So that's kind of my perspective there.
Great. So, as director of education for B-Sides STC, and now an adjunct at South Texas College, you've been at kind of the forefront of AI education and cybersecurity. Can you kind of walk us through a key lesson from your recent STC initiatives on decentralized AI approaches that folks in higher ed programs can apply today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm actually, I'm an adjunct for STC, right? So I teach cybersecurity courses. They're on the precipice of creating an AI program, right? Based
Fantastic.
on industry trends, based on research. I think they have a partnership with a 4-year college in Houston, right? So my job is to be part of the steering committee for them. So think like an AI governance steering group, right? That's going to
Yeah,
be advocating for AI for their development programs. They really push workforce development in those 2-year colleges, right? That give students not only the opportunity to get an opportunity to work, and get internships. Current state in the local South Texas region where I'm originally from, the Rio Grande Valley, that's what we call it. And then and then if they want to continue their career, have that AI enablement, have that AI program, under their belt to just kind of show, you have cross-functional perspectives from an AI perspective, right? So be an AI champion, not only internally for the leadership teams at the college, but also for students to understand the importance of AI, whether they go into manufacturing, marketing, HR, IT, you name it. It's all going to be part of the students' curriculum as they move forward.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So there was something in the September 8th STC news on responsible AI. Have you seen any kind of measurable outcomes like reduced plans in student threatlet models?
Yeah, I mean, I think as the leadership teams, depending on the curriculum and the courses they choose, and like I said, that program getting off the ground, they're gonna definitely, use that AI enablement. They're gonna use those AI requirements from, the accrediting board, right? I think
Yeah,
SACS is the accrediting body for that college, and there's others, right? Depending on the college, university, and depending on the part of the country you're in, and they're going to be using that to drive their programs to make recommendations on courses, on textbooks, because obviously they got to get, like I mentioned, they got to get with those times and use that enablement in AI education to just help the student ultimately get a successful role or land the role and be competitive in the market.
So yeah, I was going to ask you. Now, my son is in computer science right now. I know this is kind of a little off a little bit, but
Okay.
my son is going to computer science, and there's a big discussion of should he goes towards AI and studying, and how is it going to change? Have you seen how is the classes? Are they telling students to move towards AI and not doing, say programming, or is it still the same?
Yes and no, right? I mean, if you think about it, AI can be implemented in any discipline, right? So if you're a
Yeah,
developer and you're a developer by trade, you want to develop AI pipelines to AI to be built into the CI/CD pipelines, right? AI to be part of that work that they're doing from shift left, right? Securing at the feasibility stage, incorporating vulnerability scanning, for example, like through tools like Sneak or Wiz or industry benchmarking, security composition analysis tools, you name it, they can use AI. So they don't have to pivot 100% 180 to go study something else fully in AI. If they really are passionate about development and coding, they can stay in computer science and just enable the AI into their program or use it from a perspective of, knowing how to handle AI, how to use to their to maximize their abilities and efficiencies and effectiveness as in their what they want to do current and future state.
that's fantastic. I'm gonna tell him exactly that. So thank you. I know Alex, you had some questions too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Recent reports from CrowdStrike and Mandiant in Q3 2025 highlight AI augmented APTs like deepfake enable social engineering in financial sectors.
Yeah.
From your fintech experience, what innovative AI defenses such as anomaly detection models are proving most effective against these, and what pitfalls should organizations avoid?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess from a technology perspective, teams are always doing like the red
Yeah,
team, the cyber threat operations teams are always having that adversarial synthetic threat generation to anticipate those novel attacks from AI, right?
yeah,
Having continuous oversight detection of tracking drift and errors, right? Ensembling those models, combining those detection methods for resilience. What I've seen is teams doing generative adversarial training. It's called GAT, right, for cybersecurity. So instead of waiting for the attackers to evolve, defenders use generative models to simulate sophisticated attack strategies, including 0 days, deepfake, like you mentioned, driven
Yeah.
phishing. So if you have that proactive training defensive approach on future threats,
Hmm.
you're going to be early adopters of, identifying new patterns, right? New threat patterns, reducing the false positive rate, distinguishing the real anomalies from from noise, right? I mean, that's always easier said than done, but that's going to help you enhance that preparedness for complex AI-driven campaigns, right? So you have the
Yeah.
multi-layered approach from detection, reducing false negatives, anticipating new APT tactics. That's going to definitely help in regards to the situation there for those teams. In regards to the pitfalls, having over reliance on AI without human oversight. You need HITL, human in the loop, right? You need human in the loop.
Okay.
Those models are powerful, but they can create blind spots if they're not continually
Something
audited.
new for
And
me, what you have
yeah,
said.
yeah, human in the loop. That's massive. That's critical, right? I mean, usually everyone thinks of a human in the loop necessities when it comes to healthcare, right? You don't want the AI to prescribe a medication that's going to kill you,
Hmm.
or you want AI to make a determination on your symptoms and your course of health, right?
Yeah.
So that's but it's basically it's across the board. Cybersecurity is definitely there, right?
Yeah.
Lack of transparency, lack of explainability in the models, right? So regulators are going to be asking and demanding more explainable models to document, right? If it's not documented, it didn't happen. That also applies to explainability models in the AI space, right? And then privacy. Everyone doesn't really consider that privacy is huge. So
Yeah.
financial services, fintech, FIs, and healthcare, you name it, right? They need to secure both the model and the data that's being trained on, focusing on data privacy and data leakage, right? Because then you look
Correct.
at data leakages. You don't want to put everything in a Copilot prompt that's going to be out there in the internet that
Oh
might,
yeah.
that might circumvent and expose IP, intellectual property, sensitive information, healthcare information, patient data, what have you, right?
You have mentioned about the fintech over there. Do you think the financial companies will want to implement AI? I have talked with
Yeah.
some companies
I,
from the Europe, and what
mhm.
I have seen, I don't know, they are a bit afraid.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely high risk, right? So we're
Yeah,
talking about
correct.
EU classifies cybersecurity systems high risk.
Yeah.
That means organizations must implement strict auditing and governance. High risk systems require the audits, transparency, and documentation. So if you don't have those ducks in a row, they're going to be
Hmm.
scared. You're right. They're going to be worried.
Yeah.
They're going to be, understanding that it might be, it's going to definitely be detrimental to their business and operations. So you want to do it right from the beginning, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
always say that you want to start in the right foot. So, for example, embedding compliance into your development pipeline, using explainable AI models, maintaining a living dynamic risk register from the risk perspective, risk management perspective,
Hmm.
that uses AI dynamically rather than relying on static updates or reports from the risk perspective.
You mentioned about the tools. How these like federated learning address data privacy in these defenses?
Well, I mean, like I said, it just depends on the sector and what tools they have in place, right? I mean,
Hmm.
OneTrust, I'm thinking OneTrust. I'm thinking about all these privacy tools. I'm thinking about more like GRC platforms like
Yeah.
Archer and
Yeah.
ServiceNow.
Correct. Yeah.
They incorporate those particular, modules that have AI and they have AI enablement. How they're helping the organization reduce risk, deal with risk. So ultimately, that's like a case by case basis, depending on the technologies available to those particular organizations. But it's important if they're going to have those tools. How is AI being involved? How is AI being enabled? Do they have the guardrails? Do they have the controls? And like I said, do they have the particular security standards aligned to their information not being disseminated out in the ether, right? Because that's really important as they do their assessments and their body of work
Yeah.
on a day to day.
Yeah. In your August 2025 Cybertech podcast episode, you discussed GRC challenges in cloud native AI environments. With the
Okay.
latest AVS Amazon Web Services, and Azure AI security updates emphasizing zero trust models. How are fintech firms like those you have advised integrating these to counter insider threats amplified by AI?
Yeah. So, I mean, even though I actually never have held actual an operation role in insider threat, I was part of I was part of the FSISEC insider threat working group for years. I was one of their co-chairs for a couple years when I was at Wells Fargo USAA. So I have a sweet spot for have a soft spot for that, right? So in my experiences, the firms, the fintech are integrating identity access management controls strictly into their pipelines now,
Yeah.
right? So you're talking about insider threats are becoming more complex with AI because employees can unintentionally, right? That we talked about unintentional insider threat or malicious insider threat, train models on sensitive data. That's the biggest problem, right? So the fintechs are responding by integrating zero trust controls directly into their pipeline. What does this mean?
Mm.
Identity centric controls. So not just role based access, but also at the very beginning, blocking everything. Every model needs to be tied to an authenticated user and verified identity. The challenge there is non-human identities, right? Non-human accounts. That's where the rubber meets the road. So you need to have really good, guardrails around non-human identities to
Yeah.
make sure those
Correct.
models are handling that data, from an authenticated perspective, but also from a data dissemination perspective, right? And then segmentation. Everyone talks about segmentation from the network side. Well, guess what? You got to do
Correct.
segmentation on the data side. So models are trained in controlled environments with clear boundaries between production and sensitive data sets, right? Just not just QA, dev, and production. Having those delineations of how those data, environments are going to be controlled from a modeling AI perspective in all those environments as
Do
you're
you
as you're moving through the pipeline. Yeah.
do you think will be easy for the fintech companies to let's say to do segregation on the data side because you have mentioned about the data?
Yeah, I mean, is it easy? No. I mean, the short answer is no. But if you have continuous verification using real-time monitoring, like your
Yeah.
SIM tools, your SOAR platforms to
Hmm.
detect unusual patterns, especially around privileged accounts, so the high-level accounts, right?
Yeah.
Monitoring for insider threats, having the real-time privilege escalation detections and AI monitoring is going to help, right, with that particular perspective, right, and activities. One
Hmm.
innovation that I'm seeing across the environments is AI-driven insider threat, right? So the AI monitors transactions, but also developer and data scientists activities to catch early signs of misuse and possible fraud, right? So WEBA, right? I don't know if you heard of WEBA. So user-enabled behavior analytic tools. They're enabling AI. They're incorporating AI. They're ingesting AI to deal with the particular activities that might be issues of misintent or misuse for the data.
Can you repeat again the two?
WEBA, so it's UEBA, so they have different WEBA solutions out there. It's
Okay.
user-enabled behavior
Thank you.
analytics
Hmm.
platforms and solutions, and many organizations, especially the Fortune 50 and major FIs, are already incorporating that into their insider threat programs.
Okay. Interesting tool. Uh, from your, let's say, from your real world example, could you please provide us where this is breached in a compliance gap, for example?
Can you repeat the question? I'm not
So
following the question.
any real world example that you'd done as a consulting thing where this breached a compliance gap? I mean, have you seen any gap over there in terms of
I mean,
compliance thing?
yeah, I mean, like I said, I was speaking at B-Sides McAllen, right, like 6 months ago,
Hmm.
and it was about AI governance, this particular topic, and I asked the question to the group, it was like 100 people, like, who has an AI policy in place, and only like couple people raise their hands, all right? Who has a
Yeah.
steering committee? Who has a steering charter? Nobody raised their hand. So I mean, that's the gap, right? From a
Yeah.
compliance perspective, that's the gap right there. So before you do anything, before going all in, we're gonna use Copilot. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. You need to have a policy in place. You need to have some sort of documentation, some sort of governance guardrails around the use of AI, the explainability of what the AI is doing in your environment. So that's the gap in my experiences, and I've seen that in different places, not just state government or higher ed institutions.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have a few questions and then I'll give the floor to Aaron. Generative AI has supercharged both offense and defense. Think ChatGPT variants in phishing kits versus AI driven SIM tools. Based on your B-sides session last week that you had on AI governance perspectives, what's one emerging innovation in AI cybersecurity that's under the radar, but game changing for APT detection as of September 2025?
Yeah, not so much APT, but just going back to the decentralized governance, right? So decentralized governance ensures diverse perspectives that are involved in the model reviews, right? The deployment of
Okay.
those models. So having detection, better detection, improving multiple perspectives are involved in the reviews of the models. Before you weren't really seeing that. So you have different lenses, different perspectives. That's why you have to have critical stakeholders across the lines from C-suite teams all the way down to operational folks. Then the auditability increases, right? So you have like blockchain kind of like trails, right? Audit trails
Yeah.
that are going
Yeah.
to be who's improving what, when, and why, right? And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
growing the trust, right? As the process become more transparent and accountable, trust is going to grow within the systems. You're going to have more diverse populations inputting their perspectives, so ensuring the AI tools don't inadvertently disadvantage certain groups, like bias, right? Building about systems that are
Hmm.
fair, explainable, and inclusive by design. So everyone talks about secure by design or defense in depth. This is kind of the same thing from the AI side, right? Applying the education, applying the fairness in the decision making to make sure that the companies are really making the most effective, efficient use of the AI in their environment.
And my last question over here: how does it align with NIST, updated AI risk management framework from earlier this year?
That's a great question. Like I mean, I'm thinking about just like the AI risk management framework, the NIST
Yeah.
AI framework. They're all there to help with, having advanced governance around, scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Particular things to deal with from a control perspective. So not just NIST, not just the AI RMF, but for example, ISACA, CSA, OAS has a Gen I security project, right? They're huge. They just kicked off. They're at Black Hat DevCon. They're massive endeavor that they're happening from related publications and frameworks. They're going to be playing key roles for organizations to have best practice and certifications, right? And having those particular, things in their back pocket as regulators, as auditors come and audit their AI programs, their security programs. So it's not just particular, just not don't focus on this or other particular AI related publications and frameworks, but use best practice, best breed, particular to deal with hybrid risk assessments that incorporate AI and cyber or infosec and AI, to deal with classical and new threats, right? Quantum threats, right? We call them, right? So cryptography, right? You say AI is going to break cryptography, right? Quantum resilient cryptography is a new thing that everyone's kind of worried about in the future. So if you want to have those things to help deal with those advanced cyber attacks, you need to have AI governance at the very
Yeah.
forefront, at the very beginning, to deal with that.
Let's not forget for the public. Also, we have ISO 42000 and
ISO, yep,
42001,
yep,
and as well we have the EU AI Act, which is also
yep,
very important in the EU.
yes.
That's it from my side. Thank you, and I'll give the floor to Aaron.
Yeah, so I noticed we're having a lot of great questions come
Hmm.
in on the chat. We definitely will try our best to get to them. What we're going to do is answer. We'll get our questions done, and then we'll go back, and then we could ask those if when we have time. So everyone, thank you so much, but definitely stay on because we'll kind of get to those. So there's AI governance isn't just a buzzword, right? So you have the EU AI Act. High risk classifications took effect in August 2025, and it's mandating audits for systems like those in cybersecurity ops. Drawing from your experience, how can organizations operationalize these requirements without stifling AI innovation and threat hunting?
That's a great question. I mean, ultimately, you got to look at the biggest problem, right? Which I think is the talent shortage, right? So the talent shortage is basically the most immediate challenge from that perspective to deal with the technology side, but the governance side as well. So that's why I mentioned at the beginning, right? Invest in AI literacy, work through workforce development programs, build those partnerships with colleges, universities to create AI GRC pipelines, right? So internally for the GRC teams to enable AI to adopt AI and to really effectively use what those programs are doing to make better operational operators and defensive security practitioners, and cross train them, right? So you want to cross train someone that's technical with compliance related perspectives and business teams as well, so everyone can kind of at least have some sort of baseline understanding of what's actually happening in the environment from the technology perspective. So think the three lines of defense model, right? Your first line operational folks are going to be working with the second line risk GRC folks,
Yeah.
and then they're also going to be ultimately talking to the auditors when they have third line independent validation, right? So
Yeah.
the regulatory fragmentation is a challenge, but you can be mitigated with good strategy, good collaboration. It all starts at the top. So I know in my current organization, we have a great leader at the top of GRC, works hand in hand with the CISO of the organization, and they have different, programs and different areas that they're kind of working through to, work on those 3-year, 4-year, 5-year roadmaps, but also deal with the day-to-day, operational, intricacies of the programs happening for that organization, right? So it's always a moving target. We just have to just stay on top of the latest threats when it comes to compliance, technical, and business operations when it comes to AI and AI governance.
It's good. So, Durst, in one of your LinkedIn posts, you discuss aligning policies for audit success. What's a kind of a quick win framework?
Quick win framework. I mean, obviously, it's always going to be, NIST the cybersecurity framework, right? You want to have a baseline, cybersecurity framework. Right now, the big thing, right, and all the rage that I see in the last couple of years is not just an NIST assessment from a cybersecurity perspective, but a maturity assessment, where you're at in your maturity journey as it relates to NIST, you know, comparing and benchmarking it as against a maturity model like the CMMI, right, from ISACA.
Yeah.
So give it a certain score, give it a certain rating, depending on those areas that fall under that maturity assessment, and break down where you're at. And it's not easy to go from a 3 to a 4 or 2 to a 3. Right, you start putting all the numbers together, number crunching, but that gives you a really good idea where you're at from a maturity perspective, a maturity journey, and how you can get better. How can you improve to a certain number by a certain year, by a certain time, right? So um, I think that's a win, right? So understanding having that baseline in NIST, and the NIST 853 control families, right? And
Yeah.
understand how you have that, make sure that's living in your GRC environment, benchmarking your security risk assessments against those controls each and every time there's a new technology project out there. And then you go from there, right? And then you start kind of working your maturity journey and maturity assessments as you move forward.
Awesome. At South Texas College, you're contributing to responsible AI through decentralized governance models. How does this approach, perhaps inspired by blockchain for audit trails, help mitigate biases in AI cybersecurity tools, especially in diverse sectors like education and finance you have experience in?
Yeah, like I said, they're barely starting that journey. So my recommendations to them is, from a recommendation perspective, right? Having decentralized AI governance with transparent decision making. You got to be transparent. So that's where the blockchain audit trails come into play, right? So I advocated for creation of a cross-functional AI champion group, AI steering group, which they have, and
Mhm.
they have built out to share accountability across your faculty, your teams, your compliance teams, your SACS accreditors, right? And then, I think they're thinking about having an AI maturity assessment, right? So that's another thing that's outside of the cybersecurity maturity. So even they start putting all these things in place, it's going to lead to less biases, right? Greater trust, like I mentioned previously, and more inclusive AI deployments in a very decentralized environment that is higher ed, right? Because let's face it, shadow IT, shadow AI, that's a thing, right? So you can have a
Correct.
faculty member, use their P card and to buy something that the teams internally from the cybersecurity side have no idea that's happening. You're going to have some AI, risk, some AI sprawl, not to account for API sprawl and all that stuff from a cybersecurity, threat perspective. So having line of sight visibility to what's happening is going to be the first thing you want to do, and that's why I always advocate not just for STC, for any school that wants to, partake in an or build a program in house internally for their students.
Awesome. So let's kind of move to quantum computing a little bit. So with quantum computing threats looming, example, we had the NIST post-quantum crypto standards. They're finalized in 2024. How should AI governance frameworks evolve to incorporate hybrid AI quantum risks? And then another question on top of that is, from your perspective as a CSA member, what's the role of standard bodies like ISACA here?
Yeah, and I think I kind of covered that already, but I'll definitely double down on that.
Mhm.
So quantum computing will definitely help, or will definitely break current cryptography. It's gonna happen, right? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not a matter of when, it's if. It's not a matter of if, it's when, right? And enable more advanced cyber attacks. So AI governance needs to be evolving to include quantum resilient cryptography, right? Controls around that, scenario modeling from the AI side to deal with quantum enabled cyber attacks. That's not really in anybody's purview right now. And it's gonna have to get to that point to assess threat modeling is huge, right? I think organizations are doing threat modeling, so incorporating threat modeling with quantum related scenarios is going to be critical for especially the Fortune companies, the big FIs, the big healthcare organizations that want to be proactively and want to step up their game in regards to security and AI. You want to have threat modeling and scenario modeling for those AI models, right? Having hybrid risk assessments that are going to be blending classical risk assessment methodologies with quantum threats, right?
Yeah.
The new age of threats that might not necessarily be in our purview right now in our radar, right? So standard bodies like ISACA, the CSA, they have great documentation, great white papers, great publications. I've been involved with several of reviewing them or helping author them or just being in the room to as these professionals, amazing professionals that help in write their particular perspectives. For example, they have one paper called AI for Offensive Security Operators, right? I mean, you read that paper and it really gives you a good understanding of how AI is meshing with the offensive security teams, the cyber threat operation teams, and those particular related publications and frameworks are going to play key roles to define best practices, which I mentioned previously, and those certifications whenever those certifications are out there, which is going to be more predominant and more pervasive as we go on into the future.
That's good. A quick question. So, how does, say, cloud security with your with your experience factor in with this?
I mean, it goes hand in hand, right? I mean, if you have a cloud, I mean, if your environment is 100% cloud and you have Azure, GCP, and AWS instances, you have to basically operate in those environments, right? So it's agnostic to the environment. You can be on-prem, you can be in the cloud. All these things are going to be playing a role. AI is going to be in the mix regardless of where your environment and operating environment relies. So cloud security is just going to be an extension of where you're at, what those things are happening in your environments, organizations. Obviously, there's particular nuances. Look at the share responsibility model. So maybe from a share responsibility model, you're looking at SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS, depending on what where you fall in that line. There's probably going to be more requirements of what you're on the hook for as the client and what the CSP, the cloud security provider, is going to be on the hook for to provide from an AI perspective as you move on and you have different risks that you want to outline to share with them and see and then have those good conversations about who's going to be responsible for securing or might be a hybrid secure approach, right? At that time.
All right, Alex, I'll kick it off to you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Looking ahead to 2026, what do you see as the biggest governance hurdle for AI cybersecurity innovation, regulatory fragmentation, or talent shortage? And on top to that question, based on your recent speaking engagements, like the Focus Cyber sessions in September, how can groups like ours can prepare?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, I mean, I think I mentioned it. The biggest hurdle right now is the talent shortage, right? So that's kind of the most immediate challenge to deal with regulatory fragmentation. People should invest in AI literacy, have some sort of baseline on AI, having those workforce development programs kind of stood up, building those partnerships with your universities, with your internal teams to foster growth internally, to promote from within, cross
Mhm.
training those compliance teams, those technical teams, and business teams to understand what they're kind of doing at a high level baseline to understand and make them more efficient and effective in their current roles, but also have that cross pollination of information from a security perspective, from a standard perspective, from a control perspective as they move forward in their day to day, right? So having regulatory fragmentation is going to be a challenge, and that's never going to stop. But if you have good strategy, good collaboration, so think your 3-year roadmap, 5-year roadmaps, incorporating that into your strategic planning, that's going to be the best way to mitigate that potential hurdle and challenge,
Yeah.
right? And then from a APT, from a cybersecurity practitioner perspective, right? The most impactful thing is conducting, for example, do the thing, right? Conduct a mini governance audit. Just try it out, right?
Yeah.
Get an existing workflow, identifying where AI tools are currently used, even informally, right? Maybe you can uncover some shadow AI at that point, reviewing those data access points for those tools, ensuring sensitive data is not being exposed, not being exfiltrated, or being sent out to the ether, right? Establishing a simple accountability matrix, a RACI, right? Have a RACI. Who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be accountable?
Yeah.
Who needs to be informed, right? Validate all these processes at the AI level, and then having that exercise is going to be good to have visibility, building foundational partnerships, governance practices, and then you can scale into a massive RACI, right? A massive program. So you got to
Ha-
start. You can start small, but you can grow out from there.
have you seen any RACI based on the ISO 42000?
Not yet. not yet. I mean, like I said, more of my experiences have been on the NIST side of the house.
Hmm.
I think I only work for an organization that I help. I helped that they run their ISO. But back then AI was not that predominant. ISO was definitely not even discovered in the review, right? In the
Yeah,
reattestation. But I
yeah,
think now, I mean, with the EU AI RMF and then the NIST AI RMF, I know they're definitely going to be accounting for that, and
yeah.
obviously all the ISO controls around AI
Yeah,
current
I'm
state.
looking. I'm looking for. If you see something, please share with us as well,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
we just implemented also an AI thing
Okay.
on our side, and we are looking to have RASI as well.
Yeah, you need to have that. I mean, that's
We have
governance.
something.
That's
If
governance.
something based, of
Yeah.
course, based on what we have seen in the
Hmm.
controls, but it's not
So
like the one in the ISO 27001.
So
You know.
yeah, I think if you focus on the simple, like who owns the AI
Yeah,
process, who owns
correct.
the model, who monitors, who
Yeah,
validates. If
yeah,
you
yeah.
start from there, you can have a good foundation from a RACI
We
perspective.
have something, but it's not like, as I said, the one from the IS 2701. And I was looking to see something more complete, let's say,
Okay.
than what maybe other companies is doing. The IS 2701, it's the most complete thing that I have seen. It comes with the controls from the ISMS, of course,
Yeah.
but of course it comes with also the other things in regards with the what is the ISO 27001, what is NIST as well,
Hmm.
because it's interconnecting with that. We have seen also, because we are talking about fintech, and in Europe we have DORA as well. DORA is interconnected with ISO 27001 as
Yeah.
well. So a lot of
Yeah. I
things
mean, and
over
here
there.
and here in the United States, it's more federal. It's more on the federal side. But
Yeah,
even
indeed.
Texas just have their AI governance that just passed a month ago, a month and a half ago. So
Okay,
I think it's called Traga, TRGA, or something like that. I mean,
okay.
so even the state at the state level they're definitely doubling down on not only AI but privacy governance controls.
Mhm.
Maybe not so much impacting the private sector currently, but definitely impacting the public sector at the federal side as well. And then obviously, the United States is going through a lot of changes in the federal side
Yeah,
as well
yeah, I
right now.
have heard. You'll have I think soon we will have also similar to what EU AI Act. You'll have
Hmm.
an AI plan as well, as far as I understood from some people,
Okay,
which will be interesting also over there to see
definitely.
how will be implemented for most of the companies. Uh, I might have few questions for our APT and cybersecurity group audience, many of whom are practitioners. What's one actionable step they can take this week to better bridge AI innovation with governance in their workflows?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important question that leaders and anyone should be asking is how do we balance the speed and innovation and the adoption without compromising transparency, right? So too often the leadership only focuses on the competitive edge, what AI can provide, like so innovative, innovation, 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 but or just check the box from a regulatory check standpoint. But if you reframe those conversations of having trust and transparency to just have a conversation, right? Have a conversation with your teams, have a conversation with your leadership to the what are we doing with AI? What's happening in our shop in regards to AI? Having those sustainable AI growth anticipations are going to
Yeah,
be dealing and helping for future regulations or deal with future or prevent consent orders or any MRAs or MRIAs or issues internally, right?
yeah,
Building that resilience, internal resilience from the perspective of protecting against both external and internal threats. So insider threat, like we mentioned, insider risk, ensuring those systems remain explainable. So explainable AI, auditable AI, and an ethically aligned minimum reduction of biases into their models is going to be the best thing you can do. So just get in the room and just start having those conversations, right? Many people are not asking those conversations. They just think that it's happening in the background and they're not really participating in that. If they want to step up and ask those questions, you might be surprised of the things that are actually happening in current state or where they're or what that organization is going to be doing in regards to AI if they haven't fully enabled it or they're flat out just saying they're blocking it. Because everyone, I seen that, like to your point earlier, some people say that we're not doing it, we're blocking, but in reality, that is still happening. So that's shadow AI and things are happening under the covers. So I mean, that's when you can get into trouble with different situations and potential risk.
could you please provide us a tool or a checklist from your GRC playbook, or something that could help people into that?
Um, well, like I said, I mean, That's a good question. I mean, like I said, I would just, look at all the documentation that's out there. There's so many different, risk assessment methodologies, frameworks, right? Depend like
Yeah.
the ISACA risk management framework. You can look at that. Depending if your shop's a niche shop, which most shops are in the U.S. side of the house, where you're at in your maturity journey, where you're at in your risk assessment journey. Are you performing risk assessments? Are you doing qualitative risk assessments? So I mean, it's not so much of a checklist, just understanding the environment, what you're doing, how you're assessing risk. Do you have security risk assessments for any project, any technology that's introduced into the environment? How often are you doing this, right? Are you only focusing on material changes, or are you scoping them out each and every time there's something happening from a yearly perspective, annual reviews, right? That sort of thing.
Okay, this is based from the checklist, but in terms of tooling, do you have
Uh,
something in mind?
yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, depending on the organization, right? I mean, organizations are using next gen tools like
Yeah.
anecdotes, right? Anecdotes, Drata, right? Avanta,
Atlanta, yeah, I know.
or traditional tools like ServiceNow, Snow, the risk modules, RSA Archer, right? And then Metric Stream, I have familiarity with Metric Stream. So there's so many different environments, different tools and different players in the space that are going to be helping organizations, kind of, you know, ring in their GRC platforms, their risk registers, their standards, their controls, to just
Mhm.
have a clear picture and a clear delineation of what they have in their environment. Because if you don't know what's actually happening, it's really hard to do anything, right? To actually be assessing risk effectively and appropriately, if that makes sense.
If I'm not wrong, Aaron, yesterday or a few days ago, we talked about also Noma Security and as well Akira Guard, something like that. These
Yeah,
are
some
also
of the
something.
new,
Yeah,
yeah, some of the new companies.
they are new in the let's say
Did you
2025.
say did you say no name security?
Uh,
No,
Because I mean,
Noma, I
oh
think it's
no,
Noma,
yeah.
Noma.
Noma
No,
Security.
because
It
no
was
name
found.
it's more on the app and the vulnerability side of the house for
No,
like
no, Noma Security
APIs.
was founded this year,
Okay.
2025. As far as it's a startup, by the way. Lakera Guard is very big, as
Yeah.
far as we did it as a research, and then we have heard lately about Jordi. Am I correct, Aaron? I
Yes,
think.
yeah. So there's a bunch of new ones,
Yeah. So
a bunch
much,
of new
so many,
startups
so
coming
many
out, and
startups. Yep.
well, and
Yeah,
it's absolutely nuts because
indeed.
we had the gentleman who wrote the security yearbook. They write him. He writes them, I guess, every few years on. He was mentioning how there's 5,000 companies competing sometimes for the same dollar amount. So we know it's kind of tough in this business, right? But yeah, there seems to be a lot of new technologies coming out to kind of solve the problem we're talking about right now.
Definitely. Definitely.
So we have Alex. Did you have any questions on your side, Alex, or
Uh,
we got a ton from the
uh,
audience?
I think I will let all the questions to come from the audience because I'm sure they are interested to
I
hear
know. So
answers.
Durs, we it's up to can you actually see the questions on your side, Durs?
Yeah. I mean, they're flowing in like crazy.
I know,
So
and that's
yeah.
tell me if you see one specifically, I could post it on here. Or if you just want to start talking to the one that catches your eye that you would like to answer, that's up to you.
I'll let you select, and then we can
Okay, so let
cover it.
me go, and I'll just hear 1 second. I see one here that I liked before, right? And I'm just gonna pop this up the screen. Can you guys see it?
Yeah,
And
but
I'll read it out. As
yeah.
AI systems become more integrated into critical infrastructure and cybersecurity tools, how can governance framework ensure that these systems remain both secure and trustworthy without stifling the rapid innovation needed to stay ahead of the evolving threats?
That's great. I mean, I think we covered that. I mean,
Yep.
having governance documentation, having policies in place, having, making sure that it is what you say you're doing, and it's documented. Because if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So I would start there, because you're gonna stifle innovation if your processes are not documented, because you might get a slap on the wrist from a regulator, or you might get some sort of penalty, regulatory fine penalty. You might have a data breach, you might have a exposure of information out there. So think, client information, think identity theft, think all those bad things that can go wrong, and people just don't have the guardrails to protect those particular things.
Okay, good. I'll post another one up here real quick. In practice, how can developers, policymakers, and auditors collaborate so that governance frameworks are not just theoretical but actionable day-to-day AI operations?
Like I said, just get in the room and talk to them, right? talk to your teams, talk to your developers. On the federal side, I mean, there's policymakers out there in Capitol Hill that are really, vested in AI for their constituents, their constituencies. At the federal side, but just internally, just talk to your teams. Lawyers are there, right? I mean, obviously the lawyers have the final word on, what constitutes a breach, what constitutes, what can be delineated from a perspective of, what does the organization actually say they're doing from an AI perspective. So think privacy, right? Privacy clause, think your those privacy amendments. So having those conversations with the leaders, those teams, is going to be the best way to go, in my opinion.
And I think this question was probably top, answered by you, but that's actually not a bad one. In the next 5 years, how do you see AI governance evolving to handle the risk?
Well, I mean, AI governance is going to be there, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
have to have AI governance, but not just about cybersecurity. It's AI enablement through cybersecurity operations, right? So, because there's cybersecurity governance now, and that's not a new thing. And we have the frameworks, we have the controls, we have the policies, right? You have the AUPs, you have everything. So AI governance is just another wrinkle, another sprinkle on top of, what's actually happening from a cybersecurity risk posture perspective, risk control threshold. So think risk appetite, KRI, KPI. So I mean, you're gonna have AI enabled KRI, KPIs to deal hand in hand with your cybersecurity operations.
Awesome. It's actually a good question, this one. Does talent shortage risk of reliance on AI?
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the talent shortage, right? That's why I said having some sort of AI baseline. Everyone's scared that AI is going to take their jobs, and maybe so, right? But if you can morph and adapt, maybe you're going to be able to use those AI models and chatbots to get you to where you need to be on a professional level, or even give you an opportunity to increase your profile and get a better job with the enablement of AI. So don't think of doom and gloom, but think how you can actually learn how to use AI to your advantage and make it make sense for you and make it make sense for the organization you're representing.
So there's when we talked to the CISO at Delta Airlines,
Mhm.
we came to that question about worrying about. There's a big issue now. People, every time we do these, people are worried about their jobs.
Yeah,
Okay, and she had a great reply to it that she is not going to be firing her staff. If anything, she's going to be utilizing AI tools to augment her existing staff to make them better at what they do. And
that's
I
the
That's
love
the
way.
that
idea
That's
reply.
behind.
I
that's the
love that
way it should
reply.
be.
Yeah,
That's the way it
Yeah.
should be.
yeah. It was a great reply
But
for that. So
but unfortunately, in the real world, it's all about the bottom dollar, right? And
Oh, yeah.
yes.
if organizations are going to be able to, reduce spending by eliminating roles and salaries on automated that AI can do for them fully, those positions are going. That's why I mentioned the people need to be smart about how they can pivot and how they can stay and find a way to use keep their role, keep their opportunities to the from Delta to continue to be more productive and more efficient in another city if that role is going to be sunsetted based on AI automation.
But over there, you might have another problem. You might have the problem with the tools what you are
Yeah.
using,
Yep.
because if they are not so mature, we talked about this about maturity. You might end up by having problems. I mean, you are not so efficient. Let's say like that.
Correct. 100% agree there for sure.
So we there's a ton of other questions, but I think you covered a lot of
Yeah,
them
we're
kind of
I know we're
through
not gonna
through
get to all
discussion.
of them.
And yeah, because I'm looking through some of them and it seems to be, but Alex, if you want to kind of look through and ask any specific, I kind of was doing that. But if anybody's posting stuff, I just came one here.
Uh,
There we go. I could show this one. So yeah, people keep on posting. This is great. Cloud on-premise SaaS, AI shows up everywhere. How do you build one governance approach that actually works across these environments?
That's a great question. It might not be a one size fits all, right? Think the shared responsibility model, right? I mean, if you have SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, you focus on those particular environments that you have input on and find out who's on the hook for what. Who's protecting this, who's protecting that, whose responsibility is it? It's the client's responsibility, the cloud security provider's responsibility. I mean, so to say, okay, we're gonna have a one-stop shop or one particular area where everyone's gonna, kind of, understand what's actually happening, that might be wishful thinking, but it's a good exercise to try to attempt that, right? But I mean, have that delineation of who's on the hook for what. Understand having the baseline. So data classification is going to be huge. Understanding your assets, understanding how those assets. If you don't go anywhere from a accounting for who's responsible for the risk and who's accountable if something were to go wrong.
Okay. Yeah, we're having a ton more come through. And I'll slowly. I'm sorry. Thank you, everyone. We'll try to get to as much as we can. Let me see. Sorry.
I might have something.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
I'll put on the screen.
Yeah.
What skills or mindsets should the next generation of cybersecurity? I think you are back.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
sorry, I
Yeah,
don't know what
yeah.
happened. I dropped.
Okay,
sure.
I will ask again. No worries.
I see the question. I see the
Okay.
question. I mean, be curious, right? Ask questions. Want to always try to, get ahead of the game, skill up as soon as you can. Understanding what you want to do, what's your why, what are you passionate about? If you're passionate about offensive security, really double down on offensive security. If you're passionate about GRC, understanding regulations, frameworks, control standards. So understanding your why, understanding your passion is going to dictate, how you're going to be able to mostly do the best you can in your particular purview and your particular space and playpen. So yeah.
We're getting more come in.
May I put another one?
Yeah,
Aaron?
Alex, it's up to you, man.
Okay.
Have fun.
In real world deployments, how can AI itself be used to strengthen cybersecurity, especially in detecting zero-day or sophisticated threats? This is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, incorporating AI into your development pipelines, right? Understanding, to help with the alert fatigue, focus, train those alerts to reduce false positives as much as you can, and have the actual operators review more intense or more in-depth triaging of situations when it comes to AI and cybersecurity implication, right? So if you train the AI the right way, if you teach the AI the right way, it's going to help with throughput. It's going to help with offloading of think talk tier one alerts and focus on the operators or tier two, tier three alerting, right? So, but it's got to be trained the right way. It's got to be handled the right way. So it's easier said than done. And then, but of course, having human in the loop, right? We talked about human in the loop validation to make sure kind of give it a sanity check, give a cursory review here and there. Just do a random sample of a triage of an AI where the alert was handled by AI. And if you would have been the operator, would you would have handled that the same way? And are you content with the resolution, right? Just continue to test, continue to dive into those examples is going to be the best path forward, in my opinion.
Before putting another question on the screen, do you think AI is mature or still need like 5, 7, or even 10 years to get it there?
That's a great question. I mean, it's definitely not mature. I think it's getting there, right?
Uh-huh.
But we might get to a place where you think it's mature and then something else happens, right?
Yeah.
Quantum or
Yeah.
the next big thing, and then you go back to the square one, right? So, from a mature perspective, I think you still need a couple good 3 to 4 years to really
From my point
fully
of view,
consider.
it's 5 to
Yeah,
7.
yeah. It might be 5 to 7, right? Depending
Yeah.
on where you're at in your journey.
Yeah.
But like I said, once that comes in, then something else might come in, and then you come back down to 0 and 1, right? So it's just, I mean, it's case by case, but yes, we're definitely not mature now, in my opinion. We're just getting started.
Autonomous AI is almost near, so we
Yeah,
are there.
agentic AI, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's
And
on its way.
I have seen a lot of news about this. Also, OpenAI is talking about this. Even
Hmm.
Yeah,
let's
our next LinkedIn Live is about that.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, indeed.
agentic AI, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put another question, Aaron.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
What protocols are in place to override validate AI decisions during a live cyber attack? What mechanisms exist to audit AI decisions in cybersecurity operations, and how often are they reviewed? How do
Interesting.
regulatory frameworks like GDPR, NIST influence trust in AI-driven cybersecurity tools?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be agnostic to the organization, right? So, I
Mhm.
mean, depending on what protocols are happening to like I mentioned, test and validate
Yeah,
that the AI is working as it intended. You want to go
yeah.
that route. sometimes the regulatory frameworks have some, like the AI, the EU AI RMF, the NIS AI might have some things to account for and check for and stress test. But I
Mhm.
said it's all going to be individualized, tailor made, case by case basis to make a team or to understand if the things are operating as they should, right? So if you're familiar with control testing, having a test of design, test of effectiveness, you need to run those two tests on your controls. You need to run those tests on your risk and those control environments to find out if they're operating as they're intended, depending on the organization, right?
Yeah. Aaron, you want to put any questions? I can put another one if you want.
Yeah, definitely put more up. I know. What are we at? We had two, so we got 5 more minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put another one because I was my mind was there. Let's speak about smaller companies. For example, like this question: do you think smaller fintech startups will be at a disadvantage compared to large banks when it comes to AI governance, since they may not have the same resources for compliance and audits?
Yeah, I mean the answer is yes, right? I mean, always going to have the money the around, right? But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing for the smaller setups, right? Because that's what you have your managed security providers, your managed service security providers, your
Yeah.
MSSPs to kind of
Yeah.
offload
Yeah.
some of
Correct.
that pain. So like I'm thinking like companies like Arctic Wolf as an example from a security from a SOC
Yeah.
perspective.
I have heard
Um,
about them.
from a 24/7 SOC perspective, Expel. I mean, there's so many different players in the space to help offload some of that responsibility. So yes, I mean, obviously FIs are gonna be with the biggest pockets are gonna be more advantageous to run more effective AI governance programs. But that doesn't mean a small shop cannot have an effective AI governance program. So it's all kind of delicate based on the organization leadership, right? Just the talk from the top strategy and those perspectives and milestones is gonna dictate if they have a successful AI governance program in place.
Yeah, I could see buy-in from executives as being
Oh
critical.
yeah, definitely.
Indeed.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean the board, right? The board, like boards are getting excited, not with AI because it's gonna
Of
help
course.
the bottom line for
Of
marketing,
course. Yeah.
HR, other all these areas in the business,
Yeah.
not just cyber and IT. So that's what's
Yeah.
happening now. Yeah.
We
So,
might
do
have
you want to,
few.
Alex, to you?
We might have few minutes. I don't know if you want to. Uh,
We can cover one more if you want, and we
yeah.
can
Yeah, that'd be
wrap it
good.
up.
Do you want me to take it one?
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Okay. We have a question from David. Are there established reference databases that track instances and scale of AI misuse? And which data governance frameworks have proven most effective in detecting misuse or model drift within real time cybersecurity environments?
Oh, that's a great question. If I'm not aware of one, if there's one, I definitely want to track to that. So I'm thinking like HIPAA, right? The HSS, the wall of shame, right, with all the breaches and all the particular information around, the misuse, the penalties, the regulatory scrutiny.
Yeah, I
I
have
haven't
heard.
seen anything, but I mean, it won't be long till there's attribution to AI, drift, AI misuse, AI model issues, right? That someone is going to be able to draft that particular information piece into a database, into a repository somewhere. So if that's not already out there, I'm not aware of it, but that's a great call out there by whoever asked that question.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
think.
So I think that's probably good. We're at 2:58 here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all the fantastic questions. Keep it popping up. As you know, a group here, we try to answer them live as much as possible. Durst, thank you so much for your time. It was excellent meeting you.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity. This was great.
Great. Alex, thank you so much again for your time.
Uh, Anytime.
All right.
Thank you.
Durst, if you want to stay on real quick, I'm just
Yeah,
going to end the session, but we'll be good.
thank you.